Server from 17 once again. This is my Darksiders 2 Apocalyptic difficulty video walkthrough. This is the Judicator's tomb, and we're on the second soul. And apparently, there we go. My screening window, which I do the commentary of while I watch the video back, was on a different size setting. Cause for whatever reason, I must have been editing or changing something. I couldn't see a damn thing just then, so we've zoomed in a little bit more, and from what I can see now, we're in one of the... sound like Liam Neeson then with his bad American accent. We're in... no, that was the governor of Walking Dead, even worse. But this is a gauntlet fight, where you're pretty much in an arena, bunch of guys, you know, coming at you, you've got to kill them all as best and efficiently as you can. I used the... is it Reaper mode, I think it's called, where you go into the crazy, you know, Ashes of Sparta mode of a God of War, or whatever it was called there. It's essentially, it doubles your strength, it makes you extremely difficult to damage. It's a really, really good and useful strategy. And the thing how this game works is, everything, you can spec your character, you can spec your weapons, you can do a lot of different things that will help you build Reaper mode. And depending on how you decide to play and depending on the equipment you decide to use, your character will have either an affinity for going into it, an affinity for getting it, or none of the above. And depending on how you have spec'd, I haven't really spec'd too far forward into it, you will be getting that mode quite frequently, and it's the best advantage you have in really bad situations, which, for all intents and purposes, are a bit more clusterfucky than they have to be. And one thing you can do on this game, which it almost feels like it was designed to be played this way, and I don't like it at all, is you can leave at any moment if you cannot do a fight, or if you cannot do any part of a dungeon, and you can do something else. And on the flip side, I think this is a cool idea because it stops the tedium from setting in if you're just doing, you know, main story to main story to main story, and it just gives you the opportunity to explore, to do some shopping, to do some side quests, to do a whole bunch of different stuff. But it also enables you to effectively break the game in certain creative ways. For instance, if you can't do a fight because of your items or because of your, you know, your provisions are low, you can warp out and get more. You can get more potions, you can get more wrath potions, you can buy new armor, you can come back a completely different character. And with the same logic, you can do that with the Reaper mode. So if you're coming up against a fight that's kicking your ass, you just can't do it, go away, build up Reaper mode, come back, and, you know, clean the entire room with ease. And it's strategies like this that maybe not a lot of people are thinking about doing, that, I don't know, I think the game should be designed around the feel of challenge, and designed around, you know, intelligent combinations of enemies in patterns that are both creative and worth fighting. And a lot of this game is just... It streaks lazy to me. They've got this massive ambition, they've got all these cool characters, they've got all these interesting settings, and then the enemies are just the same enemy with 50 of them, instead of, you know, taking the time to make something worthwhile. A lot of the strategy on this game relies on your level. It relies on your abilities, it relies on your equipment, it relies on everything that is not you playing. And I think there's people that love that type of stuff, because it's kind of the, you know, the well-prepared, wins the battle before they even fight it type notion, which a lot of people enjoy, especially the strategy guys. But for me, I think it should be everything that coalesces into a victory plan. It shouldn't be because you're too low level that you're getting your ass kicked. It shouldn't be that, you know, your equipment's not high level enough. It shouldn't be little things like this, and that right there is a pretty rough transition, hence the crossfade. And a crossfade on this guide normally means that I died. So this is probably quite a difficult fight for whatever reason. At the beginning, with the looks of this, it seems pretty simple. It's a couple of the like leaper-looking enemies, very fast, very mobile, you know, quick and catchy combos, but not all that dangerous as long as you fight them correctly. You'll notice I'm doing a crowd control combo there, where he spins the scythe around himself and then he follows it up with the big Reaper scythe. That is a great combo, but you can get beat up in the time it takes you to finish it, so you want to be really careful of that. But judging by what you've just seen there, one of the bigger enemies, one of the brutes, has turned up. I'm not entirely sure of his name, and I'm looking through my weapons to see if I've got anything that can get me some life back. And you'll notice just then I use a potion, keep myself going, and just comboing, more comboing. That's another one of the Reaper combos. Think of the Reaper combos like the Wicked Weaves of Bayonetta, only nowhere near as intuitive or as destructive or as well crafted, but still they serve the same function. This section now, this me that you've just seen there, that's me trying to do that crowd control combo away from them. Because an old action game strategy is if a certain hit of a combo is really devastating, a la the end of that combo, you can start it on thin air and then turn the attack towards the enemy as they find you. It works on God of War, it works on Ninja Gaiden, it works on a lot of the other action games that are at a much higher level than this one. But you'll notice my life got a little bit low again, and I did a couple of there's a special ability I've got, I can't remember the name of it, but it gives you a bit of life back. It's like the Reaper Dash or something like that. I don't use it that often, I'm more of an untouchable man myself, but this is one of those encounters where I try to use speed, try to use evasion, and I don't know. I've said it before previously in this game and in this guide. I got frustrated with the combat in this game. I really did, because I wanted it to be, you know, nuanced and fine and refined, which is a better word. And compared to the first game, it's definitely got a lot more depth, but it's deceptive depth because it's not proper. It's not as deep as it likes you to believe it is, and I'm looking for something deeper when it comes to the combat of this game, and it's a shame because there are elements of this that are fun and I think a lot of people like, but I do think it stems from if you've not really played the best of the best, the highest of the crop, because this game, for all intents and purposes, in my opinion, and you know, this is my video, you listen to me speak, so that's why it's here, is that this game is a Zelda game. It's just literally what it is. A lot of people like to say Zelda clone. I don't really say Zelda clone. I just think it's a Zelda game. It's just that type of game. It's a type of game that not many developers have made because Nintendo have done such a good job with it. And a lot of the merits that the Darksiders as a series gets is it's doing a mature Zelda. It's doing what they do, it's adding a bunch of other really great elements, and it's bringing forth what is a pretty damn good game. And this combat, in regards to Zelda's combat, is great, because Zelda's combat is simple, it's very minimal, and it serves a function. A lot of it is puzzle related, so a lot of the combat is geared towards using an item to damage or to stun an enemy and then attacking them. It's not geared towards complex combos or juggling or cancelling or any of the higher end action game stuff. So to judge this game's combat by the standards of something like a Devil May Cry, I think it's unfair of me. But I can't help but do it because the developers were preaching this game as if it was going to be to that kind of caliber. And to the same extent, a game called Kingdoms of Amalur did the same. And Kingdoms of Amalur is quite an old game now. Another crossfade there, guys, because I think I was messing about, exploring, and got a little bit lost, so I do that to make sure that the guide is as concise as possible. But Kingdoms of Amalur, once I take a sip. There you have a game that preached to put the action game into the MMO style, you know, craftworks, foundations. And, you know, for a lot of it they did. They made a really good effort. The combat in that game is light years ahead of things like World of Warcraft and all those other ones, which I don't really name because I don't really care about them. And I don't want to advertise that kind of stuff. But the combat in Amalur was great. It really was for that type of game, but at the same time, it was nowhere near as good as for instance, God of War. It just wasn't. It was nowhere near as good as a Devil May Cry, as any of those games, as a Ninja Gaiden, because they're made by people that know what they're doing, and they're made by people that have been doing it for so long, they just understand it. And every so often, a combat system like that turns up that's kind of new, kind of different, deep, you know, intuitive, and most of all, and the best example that I can give of a combat system recently that I found that did everything I just mentioned is Dark Souls. Dark Souls, to me, when I looked at it, was a very clunky looking, slow, medieval game that couldn't get more generic. You know, you had your knights, you had every shade of brown and green. It just wasn't the most imaginary thing you could have seen. And I avoided it for that reason, but when I played it, it stunned me. It's one of my all-time favourite games now, and the combat does have problems, but for the most, it's so different and so unique that it really is. you can't say one of a kind, because Demon Souls exist, and we're very shortly, I say shortly, you know, we're going to be getting more and more information on the sequel to see how they change things, and I don't think they're going to change the foundation that much. I just think they're going to add to it, because I think they're being insane to, you know, we're moving the attack button to A. That would be the most alienating thing you can do to a Dark Souls player, because they have the control scheme that's, you know, very rigid and very strange at first. The bumpers, you know, L1, R1, stuff like that. It's not in the usual way these games work. But for Dark Souls, once you've played it for 10, 50 hours, you can't imagine it being any different. And I think that's the magic of that kind of combat system. At first it just seems very simple, but after that, and you try and learn it, it becomes a hell of a lot deeper. So now that you've got the key anyhow, you're going to get attacked by this dude with the big staff. You can see there's a couple of stragglers around the outsides of the area. You want to focus on the big guy, just because he's capable of dealing so much more damage than everybody else. Combo and combat are completely up to you. You know, depending on the weapons that you use will depend on your abilities. You'll notice I use Untouchable a lot, because not only does it give me life back and criticals, it's, you know, it just makes the combat quicker. One thing I will say, the support tree, the ones that enable you to summon things, I do think that's a much smarter tree for combat. I just find every one of those abilities boring and refuse to use them. But if you want the safest way through this game, those abilities are golden. Because anything that summons another combatant into the arena, not only are they a good distraction, but they're also damage dealers. So they take the focus off you, they do decent damage, they're a really useful set of skills. So if you want the full balls to the wall combat, nothing but yourself, Untouchable's your best friend. But if you want the, you know, the safer, more intelligent way to approach these encounters, then I definitely recommend the support stuff, because it's just better. And I mentioned in a previous video that the strategy I was going to tell you, that I was going to convey across this guide, involved getting a possessed weapon and upgrading it so you could essentially mash attack and heal yourself and become unkillable. And I never find a possessed weapon of a scythe variety, so that strategy never comes to light, which is a shame, but it just goes to show there's more than one way of beating pretty much every game that exists, and this is no different. But it's Christmas, guys. It's Christmas. Is everybody still excited? Did you get what you wanted? I finally got a chance to sit down. It's been absolutely crazy. Like, for the last 5 days, I've pretty much spent it at a different house, and it's always followed to going to the pub. And don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against, you know, spending ridiculous amounts of time in the pub drinking, but I've done more of it this week than I have this month, or the last 3 months. So it's, you know, I've literally just got my voice back, I've literally just got my taste back, and all those other great things that come from drinking copious amounts of alcohol. But it's been a really good time, and a lot of it's fallen through at times, but I think that's just how Christmas becomes when you get older. For instance, we have a tradition of on Christmas Eve everybody getting together and doing the rounds in our village. You know, we go to all the pubs, all the clubs, and it generally finishes at the same place, and it's that, you know, it's just that Christmas send-off where everybody drops whatever they're doing to come together, have some beers, and it didn't even happen this year. The only regulars that were there were myself, my girlfriend, and one other guy, and we still had a great time. We met a load of different people's relations, all that kind of good stuff, but it just reminds you as you get older that people's priorities really change, and things that they held dear before are completely different now. And if anybody's has anybody's watched Basketball, there's a scene at the beginning where Coop and Rima, they go to this party, and it's all the people that they used to go to school with. It's been, you know, a year or two after school, and they're going around this party and they're asking people, so what have you been up to type deal, just hanging around playing Nintendo? And that's the thing that they say to everybody that they meet, that they've been hanging around playing Nintendo. And the one guy is like, oh, I've got my degree at Oxford and Yale and came out with a blah 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 blah. I now own a yacht club and I work for my father on the oil estate. And he kind of fires the question back at them, and they just go, well, you know, just hanging around playing Nintendo. And that's how I felt this year to some people, because There's people moving in with their girlfriends, getting engaged, getting really serious when there's a whole bunch of emotional bullshit that will never make those relationships work and they're doomed to fail. And you just sit there thinking, do these people even think about what they're fucking doing, or do they just want this illusion of a happy life? Really strange. But thank you for watching, guys, and you take care now.